Hey YouTube, my name is Jen, and I've had a channel here on YouTube for a couple of years that has been pretty inactive. But lately, I have gone through some life experiences and acquired some wisdom that I feel would be of value or is of value to others. And I wanted to come on here and be able to share that with you guys. I happened to be scrolling through Instagram this morning and came across a really interesting video by a YouTuber by the name that goes by the name of Mr. Russell, not Russell Simmons, Russell Hartley, excuse me. And it was a really interesting reel about trauma dumping. And I feel that trauma dumping is something that I know a lot about. And he talks in the reel, he talks about why trauma dumping is really unpleasant and he doesn't really talk about why it's really unattractive. Like he touches on it very lightly, but he doesn't really go fully into depth about why it's bad to trauma dump on your date. And so I wanted to elaborate on his reel and give you a little bit of a deeper perspective about why trauma dumping is bad. So I'm going to replay his reel here, and then we'll talk about why it's bad to trauma dump.
Just gonna just your motherly. And then they think it's a.
Let's see if I can get it to play from the beginning here.
I don't know, it's endearing or some sort of like thing to just be on the very first date to be like pour out all their trauma and their childhood trauma and what they're struggling with today emotionally, and like how it's just so hard. And that's day one, first date. And it's like, sir, this is a Wendy's. What the fuck? This is not a part of Brat Summer. But they think it's so a part of what their character that they feel like if they just share it with you that you're just your motherly instincts are gonna take over, and then you're just gonna be, oh, well, it's okay. Well, let's have sex. Probably fucking not. But it happens all the time. And that sort of victim shit will just make literally every woman drier than the Sahara, and they'll just do it anyways. And then they go, hey, I had a really good time with you tonight. Maybe again next time? And you're just like, ugh. Thanks for dinner. Never again. The Sahara. You guys should literally send them that desert emoji. Hang on, let me find it. Let's see. For good and all, I'm going to give you guys an example so that we're all on the same page. Here we go. Next time that happens, just send them the cactus like this. It's dry up in here. Guys will go on a first date with a woman, first time meeting them out, whatever. And then they think it's it's endearing or some sort of like thing to just be on the very first date to be like pour out all their trauma and their childhood trauma and what they're struggling with today emotionally, and like how it's just so hard. And that's day one, first date. And it's like, sir, this is a Wendy's. What the fuck? This is not a part.
I'm going to stop the video there because that it started to, they keep, it goes like in a loop. The reels will start back at the beginning. So when I saw this reel, first of all, I think it's great that he's spreading awareness about trauma dumping, to let people know it's not a positive thing to trauma dump. But as I mentioned, I wanted to sort of take it a step further and really explain why trauma dumping is a bad idea for you and also for your date. So Russell talks about or touches on victim mentality. So when you trauma dump with your date, you are kind of saying like, this is all the trauma that I've been through. This is all the pain that I've endured in my life. Kind of like, poor me, poor me, poor me is sort of the energy that you're giving off. And when you approach life from a victim mentality, you give off the air that you have no control over your own life, that you are weak, and that you're not strong. And a healthy man is going to be looking for somebody who is an emotionally healthy person. And if you are approaching life or you looking at life through a victim mentality, you are sort of allowing yourself, you're allowing life to sort of do you. Do you know what I mean? Like, instead of you doing life, you're allowing life to do you. And men have a tendency, healthy men have a tendency to be attracted to women that are emotionally and mentally strong. And so when you show them that you see yourself as a victim of life, it's a turnoff. It just is. The type of man who will be attracted to somebody, I think, that has victim mentality would fall under the profile of abuser, because abusers are looking for somebody that is not emotionally and mentally strong. And so they actually like somebody who presents themselves as a victim, because they are looking to target somebody that is weak, somebody that they can walk all over on and like step all over on, and who will be a doormat. And when you trauma dump and you kind of come with the energy of like, I'm a victim, look at all this awful stuff that has happened to me, it's on a psychological level, you are claiming it, if that makes sense. And so you are almost like claiming and inviting that cycle of bad things happening to you to continue. So that is why it's not a good idea to trauma dump. It's not a good idea to present yourself to someone as being a victim. Regardless of whether or not it's true and you have been, unfortunately had bad things happen to you in life, it's not something that you should claim, if that makes sense. So that's the first point. The second point as to why trauma dumping is bad is because it shows that you have weak boundaries. It's telling your date that you have weak boundaries. When you have strong boundaries and self-love, you understand that not everyone has access to you. That not everybody has earned the right to know what your challenges in life have been, to know what your hardships have been, to know your pain. Those are very, very personal things to just share with somebody that you don't even know, that has done nothing, that hasn't done anything, to prove themselves worthy of knowing such intimate details about you. And so weak boundaries spells a lack of self-love. And so when you trauma dump, you're showing your date that you have weak boundaries because you don't even know them. They have done nothing to earn your trust. They've done nothing to earn your respect. They've done nothing to prove to you that they are worthy of knowing such intimate details about you. When you are dating, it's really important that person, this is particularly true of women dating men. It's very important that you're not easy, that you are not easily accessible, that you're not easily won over. It's very important that you have high standards, and that you require the person who wants to be with you or thinks that they want to be with you to really prove themselves. And when you just sort of give it away on the first date or very early on in your relationship, there's no challenge there. And men really do like being challenged. When they are not challenged, they have a tendency to get bored, which actually takes us to my next point of when you trauma dump, you come off as boring because it basically says to your date that your traumas and your hardships define who you are, that they are your entire being. And listen, it may sound like maybe that person has a lack of compassion for you, but we have to be real and honest about who the majority of men are. Men are not by nature super nurturing people. They are not by nature necessarily super loving. They are hunters, they are providers, they are protectors. But what they are not by nature is they are not nurturers. They are, and of course this is not true for every single person out there, but from a biological perspective, they are just not by nature, right? I don't know if, they're not by nature nurturers. That's just not how God made them. That is not how nature made them. So when you start talking about your traumas, particularly on the first date or, very early on in the relationship, what you're telling that person is that you have nothing else to talk about. And that's boring. It's also not really fair to your date to dump all of that on them. They don't even know you. They're not your therapist. They're not your girlfriend. And so it's unfair to your date for that reason. But also it makes you seem really boring because it shows like you have nothing else to talk about. It also shows that you don't really know who you are. And regardless of whether or not it's justified that you don't know who you are, because maybe you had a really tough hand at life and, maybe you had a narcissistic parent or narcissistic parents that didn't meet your emotional needs. And maybe, I don't know, because it was never about you, you never had the opportunity to really figure out who you are and what you really love in life. That could be the case. So whether or not it's actually justified or not, the problem is like your date doesn't care and they don't know. And it's just far too early on to even get into that. And unfortunately, we do live in a world where, people are judging you by like first impressions. So you really have to think about how you are presenting yourself to the world, how you're presenting yourself to a date, first impressions, things like that. To be fair, I've got my notes here of my thoughts. To be fair, if you love yourself, and you should, it's important to know who you are. Like, you should love yourself enough to want to know who you really are, to love yourself enough to know what your favorite color is, how you like your steak cooked, or what your favorite hobbies are. Do you love dancing? Do you love taking salsa lessons? What do you like to do? That is all part of knowing yourself. What kinds of books do you like to read? What are your favorite countries to visit? Okay? And not everyone has the financial ability to explore all of their likes and dislikes, but you should be trying to know who you are as best you can within your limits, with whatever's in your reach, because that is knowing who you are and what you like really is a true expression of self-love. And so when you trauma dump, you're telling the other person basically that you don't love yourself because you think that all of your traumas define who you are, and you don't truly know who you are, if that makes sense. Even though I do have to say, I do think our challenges, this is gonna sound a little hypocritical, but our challenges do help form who we are. They do, because when we are faced with challenges in life and pain, we find out that we are stronger than we thought we were. We find out how resilient we can be. So yes, traumas and pain does help us to grow. But it shouldn't be our entire being. We should have an identity outside of our challenges. So, moral of the story, don't trauma dump. When you trauma dump, it tells your date a lot of negative and bad things about you. It causes your date to have a lot of negative and bad judgments about you. And they're going to see you as not loving yourself, as not having strong boundaries, as being easy, because you're telling all of your secrets without, you're telling all of your secrets to somebody that has done nothing to earn the right to know all of these intimate details about you. And you're telling them that you're boring because you don't know. Your whole identity is tied into what you've been through in life. And it's just not a good way to present yourself to the world. It's not a good way to present yourself to somebody that you are trying to potentially entertain a romantic relationship with, because that will set the tone in the relationship, and it's going to affect who you attract to you. Abusers will look for those types of qualities because they will see you as a weak person that they can continue to victimize and have you at their beck and call to abuse. So it really is something that if you are doing, you really need to work on stopping, so that you can attract a healthy relationship or attract somebody that is going to love you, because no one's going to love you unless you show that you love yourself. That is really number one. So I hope that my breakdown of Russell's reel and my thoughts on trauma dumping is helpful. And I would love to hear from you and hear about your thoughts and your reactions to my reaction to Russell's reel. So I look forward to putting more content out for you, and genuinely hope that that you found this information helpful. Thanks for watching.